The president earlier this week instructed the intelligence community to conduct a full review of the pattern of malicious cyber activity related to our presidential election cycle. So he's requested this report be completed and submitted to him before the end of his term. Our intelligence community determined that there was malicious cyber activity intended to interfere with our elections. In the high confidence assessment that was released this past October, the intelligence community made very clear that this was activity directed by the highest levels of the Russian government.
The president's extraordinary request was revealed this morning.
The president has directed the intelligence community to conduct a full review of what happened during the 2016 election process.
The president now wants a document which pulls together the evidence behind the intelligence agency's stunning announcement last fall. They were confident the Russian government, at the highest level, tried to affect the outcome of the U.S. election. The request comes as Congress is pressing for more details, and after Donald Trump told Time magazine this week he still doesn't buy Russian involvement. I don't believe they interfered. It is an awkward situation. Surely Mr. Trump doesn't want to give the Russians any credit for his election. Added to that, intel officials who've worked on the Trump transition tell NBC News Trump distrusts the intelligence agencies, believing they're political. The White House hope is that this new report can help Mr. Obama persuade Mr. Trump the Russians cannot be trusted.
Russia has warned the United States over its decision to lift some restrictions on arms deliveries to militants in Syria. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said the weapons may end up in the hands of terrorists. He said if the measure passes, it would pose a threat to the Middle East and to Russian forces in Syria. On Thursday, U.S. President Barack Obama ordered a waiver to lift some restrictions on military support to, quote, foreign forces and others in Syria. This means the anti-Damascus militants would be able to have access to weapons like man-portable anti-air missiles that can target aircraft.
U.S. and Russian top diplomats have struck a breakthrough agreement to extract the remaining rebel forces from the Syrian city of Aleppo. Discussions on the deal will continue Saturday in Geneva. However, Russia's foreign minister has expressed concerns over whether the United States will stick to the agreement.
My take first is there any way Obama can leave now and not wait another month? I mean, this is a very disturbing and frankly puzzling decision on his part. We see that the Syrian army is retaking Aleppo. That's going to happen over the next few days. You'd think they would be finding some way to wind this war down, to work with the Russians, to try to defuse this crisis, make sure that these terrorist groups do not get out of control. And instead, he signs an order that essentially is dropping the pretense that we're supporting vetted moderates and all the other obfuscations they used in the past, and that we know these weapons will find their ways into the hands that people we know are terrorists. To what end? How does this promote American interests? Nobody knows. This makes no sense at all, but it's very disturbing.
A Dutch court has convicted lawmaker Geert Wilders of hate speech for speaking out against the dangers of Islam. Wilders says the trial was a politically motivated charade that endangered the freedom of speech. Even before the hearing, he vowed not to allow a conviction to muzzle him from telling the truth. CBN News has interviewed Wilders before about the accusations.
I make mistakes every day. I'm just human, so I'm full of mistakes. But to speak the truth about Islam, as I see it, and as the reality is not a mistake. I wish many people did it. I understand why few people do it, because the price is very high. Besides the death threats that you get from average people, from Islamic descent, from organizations like Al-Qaeda or the Taliban, you also, a lot of people label you as a bigot or racist.
The judge says he will not impose a sentence on Wilders, saying the conviction was punishment enough for a democratically elected leader.
Dutch police have arrested a man in Rotterdam. He is suspected of planning a terror attack.
Yeah, hi Robin. We're just beginning to get in the first details. What police are saying here is that the man had a Kalashnikov, that he had two magazines, that the magazines were full of ammunition. They say that in his apartment they found a large ISIS flag, that's how they describe it, as well as 4 boxes, they say, that were full of illegal and highly explosive fireworks. This seems to be the basis of why the police believe that he was plotting a terror attack.
To Cairo now, where a roadside bomb near a security checkpoint has killed 6 police and wounded 3 others.
The attack happened close to a government building in a middle-class neighbourhood. An AP reporter at the scene said the bombing appeared to have targeted 2 police SUVs parked on the road at a mobile checkpoint. The explosion completely destroyed one of the vehicles and severely damaged the other. It was the latest in a series of security incidents in Egypt, often claimed by radical Islamists.
30 people have been killed and more than 50 wounded in a bomb attack in northeastern Nigeria. The attack was carried out by 2 female suicide bombers, the military have said. Now, 2 explosions ripped through a market in the town of Madagali. It's an area where the military has been battling Boko Haram.
Some 400 African migrants have stormed a border fence surrounding Spain's North African enclave, Ceuta. Spain's Interior Ministry says 2 police officers and 3 migrants suffered cuts and bruises during the ordeal. Hundreds of African migrants try to reach Europe through Spain's North African enclaves, Ceuta and Melilla, each year. Most are intercepted on the spot and sent back across the border. Those that make it across the 6-metre-high border fence are sent to temporary migrant accommodation centres, where they can submit applications for asylum in Europe.
Inside the European Council building, Brussels, EU Justice and Home Affairs ministers are given a demonstration on how security forces and medical teams would respond to another terrorist attack in the bloc. Those coordinating the event admit EU countries need to step up cooperation.
The terrorist threat doesn't stop at borders. And as a matter of fact, that is the answer to your question. So yes, we have to learn from each other, and that's the good thing about here. We see the best capabilities of each other, and from that we can learn, and we have to learn to cooperate.
Following the atrocities committed in Paris and Brussels, 82% of people living in the EU believe Daesh will attempt to carry out more attacks in the bloc.
A bill was approved by Ohio lawmakers on Friday that opens the way for licensed gun owners to carry concealed weapons on college campuses. This news comes less than 2 weeks after a man injured 11 in a stabbing attack at Ohio State University. The bill passed in the Senate 22-8 after being approved by representatives on Thursday 68-25. The bill now awaits Republican Governor John Kasich's signature. If the bill is signed into law, the Board of Trustees at Ohio Public Universities could allow concealed carry on campuses. According to the website for the campaign to keep guns off campus, 10 U.S. states currently allow guns on campus.
A new federal program now teaching ordinary people how to save lives. It is called Citizen Responders, and it trains people in extreme first aid to help people survive when first responders are on their way.
Well, Melissa, it's a harsh reality, but the message behind these free classes is very simple. In today's world, skills like stuffing a bullet wound with gauze or tying a tourniquet are skills that we all need to know.
We're going to simulate the bleeding.
Ooh, is the bone over here?
Everyday people learning how to stop the bleeding of a fake gunshot wound at Stony Brook University on Long Island.
I didn't realize you could use something as simple as like a shoelace or a tie to make a tourniquet.
They're preparing for nightmare situations that have become all too real in the United States, an active shooter or an explosion. This class in the wake of an attack just last week at Ohio State. In many attacks, there are preventable deaths, like 18-year-old Akira Murray's. Shot just once in the arm during the Orlando nightclub massacre, she slowly bled to death in a bathroom, texting her parents, waiting hours for paramedics.
That girl could have lived. Somebody could have done this. We want you guys to know this. We want you guys to be able to teach other people.
Students here learned how to stuff a realistic bullet wound with gauze or even clothing in a pinch, how to tie a tourniquet using your shoestrings and a ruler or a pen.
It's just good to know. I think everybody should know it.
You think it could happen?
Of course it could happen. It has happened.
It truly is disheartening the way that, unfortunately, the world has become. We would all like the world to be ideal. It's not. We feel it's our duty to provide this skill.
Protesting outside the gates of power, calling for President Park Geun-hye to be impeached for her alleged role in an ever-widening corruption scandal. Sometimes a tense wait for lawmakers to decide her fate. Parliament's vote was convincing. 234 opted for impeachment, just 56 said no, meaning many of Park's own party must have voted against her. The reaction outside was one of delight, including from Seoul's mayor, himself a presidential hopeful.
It's a great moment of Koreans and the victory of democracy.
I'm so happy
I'm very proud of my people.
President Park met with her cabinet after the vote, apologising once again.
I solemnly accept the voice of the parliament and the people and sincerely hope this confusion is soundly resolved.
Suspended from power, her Prime Minister, Hwang Kyo-ahn, is now in charge. Addressing the nation, he assured citizens the focus will now return to North Korea, warning the military to be on alert for Pyongyang taking advantage of the destabilized situation.
The United States Supreme Court legalizing same-sex marriage emboldened gay activists around the world. Now political pressure is rising in Taiwan to make that nation the first in Asia to follow the U.S. lead. Christians are standing firm against the change, and the country's first female president may make the difference.
80,000 LGBT activists and supporters recently took to the streets in Taipei for Asia's largest ever gay pride parade. Although no Asian country has legalized same-sex marriage, many gay activists believe Taiwan could become the first Asian country to do so. They were encouraged by this recent Facebook video posted by Taiwan's new president, Tsai Ing-wen.
I support gay marriages, and everyone has the right to love and to be married.
Taiwan's legislature is considering a bill to legalize gay marriage. Support from 57 of 113 lawmakers is needed if the legislation is to move forward. So far, 56 legislators have backed the bill. Religious affiliation has affected opinions on same-sex marriage. According to one recent survey, 80% of Taiwanese between the age of 20 and 29, mostly Buddhists and Taoists, favor legalizing gay marriage. In comparison, 75% of Christians oppose legalization. Local church leaders have organized nationwide protests urging Taiwanese to oppose the legislation and protect family values.
CNN reports that a city in Japan wants to apply QR code stickers similar to the application of microchips on pets to the elderly to ensure that they're easily found when they are lost. Officials in Iruma, near Tokyo, are supplying small waterproof QR code stickers to families with elderly relatives at risk of wandering away from their homes and getting lost. The QR stickers can reportedly last for about a month and can be stuck onto a fingernail or carried around on a key holder. If a person were to ever come across a member of the elderly population, they could simply scan their sticker with their smartphone and find out the wearer's registration number, their hometown, and the telephone number of their city hall. The program is hoping to connect a missing person to their family more easily.
The world population is expected to explode by 2050, with 10 billion people, which raises fears among insiders that we could be facing a food shortage. Ashish Malik, a former executive at Bayer Crop Science, has since left the world of genetically modified organisms to become the CEO of a Canadian-based startup called Bee Vectoring Technologies. They are hoping they have a new solution to save crops naturally using bumblebees.
So normally control agents, whether they're chemical or biologicals, are sprayed and applied on crops using tractors or even planes in some cases. And as you might imagine, a lot of the products get wasted. We have developed is a technology that the control agent actually gets attached to the bee as the bee is going back out through their beehive, and as the bee goes to feed and do their thing and pollinate the crop, that control agent gets transferred right to the flowering plant. So it's a very efficient way to deliver the control agent. No product gets wasted, there's less water that's used, and of course, since the product is biological, there's no chemicals that are used.
The startup, which is less than 2 years old, says they're just in the commercialization stage, but hopes to get EPA approval by 2018. Meanwhile, big corporations like Bayer and Monsanto are betting big on GMOs, and they're hoping to join forces in a mega merger to help solve the future food problems.
We're entering a new era in agriculture, one in which growers are demanding new solutions and technologies to be more profitable and to be even more sustainable. The vision for this combination was born out of that desire to help farmers grow more with less.
After hearing reports that Zika was spreading in South America last year, the NIH and Inovio researchers jumped on designing a DNA vaccine for it.
It took around 7 months to go from not having the vaccine and
to the point of being able to give it to individuals in a phase 1 trial. Only 7 months. Normally it's a process that can take up to 2 years.
In the summer of 2016, both teams began human clinical trials for their respective DNA vaccines against Zika.
We started in South Africa, where scientists are hopeful a new HIV vaccine could prove the final nail in the coffin for the disease. The drug's to be tested in a trial which got underway this week. It's the most advanced of its kind in a country struggling with 1,000 new infections every day.
Cameras were flashing today as the first volunteers received their first shots against AIDS. The trial started simultaneously in 3 major cities, Durban, Pretoria, and here in Cape Town, at the Desmond Tutu HIV Foundation. The fathers of the project gathered in person to add weight to the cause. The last trial took place in Thailand in 2009. 30% of the patients were successfully immunized. Scientists today are aiming at a better result. They have been working at it for more than 30 years.
Cole has been in this journey, and many of us have been in this journey together for a long time. And I'm sure you've heard, we'll have a vaccine, we'll have a vaccine. I think it has been an extraordinary coming together, a global enterprise, to put the best minds and the best science together. Very important, though, that 30% in Thailand was an enormous milestone. For the first time, the world got an inclination that a vaccine can protect against HIV.
For the first time, radiation from Japan's Fukushima nuclear disaster has been found on the west coast of the U.S. It was found in water samples taken off the coast of Oregon earlier this year. Researchers say a massive amount of contaminated water was released from the Fukushima nuclear power plant following a 9.0 magnitude earthquake and tsunami in March of 2011. Radiation was released into the surrounding air and then fell into the sea. The levels of contamination off the U.S. coast are extremely low, though, and are currently deemed safe. But officials are continuing to monitor the situation, saying that the bulk of the radiation plume from the Fukushima plant has not yet made its way across the Pacific.
Today was another deadly day on the roads. In Sweden, New York, one man died after losing control of his SUV. In Ohio, another massive chain reaction crash, the third in 24 hours.
We've got a few more accidents headed to town.
Nearly 50 cars and trucks slammed into each other in the snow. 20 people injured. Some had to spend hours in their cars waiting to get out of the cold, while pileup crashes in Pennsylvania and Michigan are finally clear. In upstate New York, blinding lake-effect snow, more than a foot in places, creating headaches for drivers and anyone trying to get out.
I've shoveled this probably 5 times since 9 o'clock this morning. It just keeps on coming.
They're used to this kind of weather up here, but the atmosphere was so unsettled, this storm also brought rare thunder snow. Almost 40% of the country is now covered in snow. Even parts of Texas saw a light dusting. Seattle giving us a glimpse of more to come. Ice on the roads had wheels spinning and cars sidelined.
When I took off, I slid into the side, so then I got stuck.
On top of all this, 45 states seeing below normal temperatures today.
People in the Aceh province of Indonesia were clearing up the debris on Saturday after a deadly earthquake which killed at least 100 people. The quake, which hit the region on Wednesday, injured more than 700 and has left thousands homeless. Many residents, who are mostly Muslims, have taken shelter in local mosques. A 2-week state of emergency has been declared and the government has promised aid to help with recovery efforts. National disaster management officials say the search of the wreckage for anyone still unaccounted for is nearly complete. The magnitude 6.5 quake is the region's worst disaster since the Indian Ocean tsunami of 2004.
The spherical cloud was spotted hovering ominously in the air against the clear blue sky at 3 p.m. in Fujisawa in Kanagawa yesterday. Pictures of the phenomenon have gone viral after they were posted on Twitter, with over 18,000 retweets and 20,000 likes. Some users seemed worried by the sight, with one commenting, "I hope it is not a strange omen."
think 30,000 views so far on Facebook.
What's crazy is that he's done this for 3 years and he's just sat in his little room doing his little thing, and all of a sudden overnight it just went bang.
Lots of people have donated fur and ribbons and lots of stuff. I've got to put it to the side and make the bear, and then I'll go back on for 5 minutes and work back, and then get back to what I was doing. I just keep on doing what I do.